If you don't ask questions, we'll sing more.
So there.
Yes.
So how you see those baby shark or those music is
Say it
The
again.
baby shark music.
Baby shark, yeah.
Yeah.
Baby shark, do.
Shark do 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 do. Mama shark do do. What about it?
How do you see this kind of, because I look at YouTube video talking about they are using, it is not a one-time hit, they design it that way, it's from Korean education, earlier education company, they create this song, so they make it commercialized. Yeah, so how do you see, I don't know, what's your views of this kind of commercially, or they design it that way as song?
The repetitiveness of the song, is that what you mean? Like kind of how they market particular mainstream songs with repetition or
Commercial.
commercial?
The impact of the commercial music is more often not very good than it is good. I think we have to separate out some issues around singing. I mean, so we know that singing is invaluable, all right, to human development and to all the things we've talked about. Therefore, some people are going to make a killing off of it. And we have, Kate and I both know, a fair number of musicians who are writing songs about how to teach math through singing, how to do this through singing and stuff. Some of those songs are really, really good. Some of good in the sense of having an understanding of and being respectful of child development. And then some of them are not so good. And then there's the whole batch of, I don't know if they're popular with the We Sing series. Are they still out? Which are really bad, in my opinion, because they just take songs, they take something that's good and make it not good, you know, and they made a fortune off of it. And so some of this, and maybe we should talk about that. What would be the standard or the issues to look at? And you know, and we shouldn't get locked in only to singing. I mean, we have 2 out of 4 people here who are singers, so it's easy for us to do that, but we should think that is the real thing and also as a metaphor for other things, and we should move on to the other things as well.
Well, I would really have to say that if there's a screen involved, it's not useful. It might even be detrimental. If you're singing with somebody one-on-one in person, real time, and you sing that shark song that I don't really even, I've never heard it, but once you use a screen, it's gone, I think. That's my personal opinion.
But I think a lot about music with purpose and creativity with purpose, right? Oftentimes, like you think about artists, they either create for themselves for their personal healing, or they're creating for like their community and ritual aspect. And I think what you're bringing up is sort of the idea of creating for money, or creating for commercialism, right, and for profit. And so I think there's a difference between the intention that is behind that, right, around creating for love, for healing, for community, versus creating for profit. And I think that those are very different strategies, and it just affects us in a different way, I think. I hope that answers some of your question. And not to say that that's bad per se, because I do think there are some songs that try to teach repetition and to help with the memory piece, but I think to the point of child development that if it only stops, if it only teaches you and it stops and you get stuck at a certain point, then that teaching no longer goes any further. It's just around repeating versus pushing for deeper development.
Which is similar to the issue, and I know you want to talk of around testing. When we teach to the test,
Yeah.
kids may or may not do well on the test, but they don't know anything else. You know, so we have to look at the authenticity of what it is. That's why instead of how do we teach, I think you have to think about how does learning happen? Not how do we teach, it's how do we, and that was why the question was, how do we cultivate? Because we can't teach, wonderment. We can't teach empathy. We create worlds in which they can flourish. So.
Oh, all I was going to say, I think maybe I actually just had a slightly different interpretation of the direction of your question, but it was the trivial thing of that also, there are a few things that give us sort of more insight into our own psychology than like marketing and than the advertising that really works on us and causes us to spend the money that we want and stuff. And so there's also just so much that we can learn from the commercial products that do really resonate with kids, and not like you need to keep feeding them those and everything, but that there's a reason that certain things are incredibly successful, and it's all the reasons that we're talking about here. And so I think that there's real utility in looking at the things that kids are transfixed by, that are produced to make money, and figuring out what it is that really, yeah.
I was reading a little bit, there's a copy of it here, The Book of Joy, which is the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu talking in. And I was just sort of going through it, getting ready for today and thinking about it and looking at those 8 pillars of joy, coming back to the theme of the conference, which, and I was interested in well, in all of them really, but anybody not know them? I'll just,
Please share.
everybody, huh?
Please share.
Okay, so the first one is perspective. I know some educators, that's you guys. Which is one of the habits, some of the education reform, real reform, not pretend reform. Educators are talking about habits of heart and mind that we want kids to develop, that they use for a lifetime. And one of them is perspective, the idea, of different points of view and different points of view. All right. Then there's humility. This one I found really fascinating. The word humility comes from the Latin word humus, which is the earth and soil. I mean, that was exactly what I did. So we think of humility. Say it again.
I speak Portuguese.
She speaks
I
Portuguese.
speak Portuguese.
Oh.
It's the Latin language.
Okay, yes, okay, so you're there with it. So it doesn't mean that we can't do things or that we have to be meek and mild. It means that we have to remember where we come from and where we're going, and being a part of that. And I just want to share one thing. And then, so many years ago, I was on a trip with some people to Grand Canyon. We were hiking up some of the side canyons, and one of the people took a picture, and we all got together afterward to share our pictures. It was back in the days when we had to develop, film, and slides, and all of that. But anyway, this picture happened to be of me and one other person. So of course I loved it because it was all about me. That's what my sister always tells me, it's all about me, about her. But so we were in a side canyon of Grand Canyon. I'm going to stand up because this was me and the person I was with. He was a little taller than I am. This room is not tall enough. Okay, and I looked at that picture and I thought, oh my, and I kept blowing it up. I asked the person if I could have the slide, and he graciously gave it to me. And so I made it about an 8 by 10. I thought, no, that's not big enough, and I made it at this. Finally, it's in a 24 by 36 inch poster. It's still not quite right, but it's much closer. But I look at it, for me, it's a reminder of humility. It's our place in this universe. It's not bad, it just is.
I'd like to offer a song for those first 2 pillars. I'll sing it and then you'll see why. Let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine, shine, shine. Don't you know someone's down in the valley trying to get home? And then we'd sing the song in the classroom, and I would say after a while, who do you know that's down in the valley? Not who do you know who's sick, who do you know who's dying, who do you know who's gone to jail? Who do you know that's down in the valley? It's a non-judgmental, non-comparison way to talk about somebody who's struggling. And I think it really helps level the playing field and let young children learn about empathy rather than pity.
Well, and it goes on in this book to describe that the humility is the reminder that we need others. It's not that we can't do anything, which is what you're saying. You know, it's not pity. It's not, oh, you know. And that as human beings, we can't solve everything and probably shouldn't attempt to solve everything. And the thing that struck me is that we're not intended, we're not created for independence. We're created, you know, to collaborate, to be interdependent, to, you know, our limitations remind us that we need other people.
More now than
Ever. Humor and laughter. Do you guys want to say something, or should I go on?
No, keep going. Yeah.
So-
they all start with H?
Perspective.
Only two. It just seems like
Okay.
it. Humility and humor and
They're so
laughter.
important.
The thing that struck me is there's some science to this, apparently, like we're getting science about music, that laughter therapy seems to boost the immune system. And some of you might be old enough to remember the writer Norman Cousins, who was sick with, was it cancer? He was really sick and dying, and he laughed. I mean, he just laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. And I don't know that he was completely cured, but he was better. And, you know, now that's seeming to be supported by actual scientific data. There's also the importance of finding humor in a situation. You know, here we are, you know, and we can, you know, become enraged, or we can make a joke, you know. Okay, acceptance. And this was also interesting. It isn't necessarily about resignation or defeat, you know, which is how we kind of begin, okay, I just accept things as they are, you know. It isn't that at all, but what it does is it helps us to take a step back. This is what's going on out there. Right? We've already established that I don't have control over. We did that with humility.
Yeah.
That's going on. So now, let's step back and take a look at it and see what we can do. Maybe not about it, but about our little community, which is what Angela was talking about before. This is what we have to do. And feel free to jump in if you.
Yeah, I think that acceptance piece is huge, and as I talked about, like, we can't change everyone's condition, we don't have billions of dollars buy people homes, but if we accept the place that we're at and work from there and cultivate, we're good.
It's huge. And then there's forgiveness. You know, some of us have a hard time doing that.
Miss Cassandra has that.
Say it again?
We have Miss Cassandra Hughes is here, that's with Lotus Bloom, and she founded a project called Daughters Without Dads, and it's a project that talks about moving from tragedy to triumph, and forgiveness is one of the topics that she talks about around overcoming that and getting to that next place as you're going through that tunnel.
You have to. Yeah. And it's very hard. It's hard for, you know, it's hard for our Western civilization kind of thinking that, all right. So,
Can I offer a song for that?
sure.
All is forgiven, move on. All is forgiven, move on. That's it. All is the move on part. You know, we talk about forgiveness and we get it, and then we kind of stew in it for a long time. I think the move on part is really important.
And it's scientifically important because if we get stuck in that bad place, it has an impact on our systems and an adverse impact, particularly apparently on the immune system. So people who stay angry, you know, get sick.
Have other problems.
Yeah. Okay, then there's gratitude. And this has become a big thing recently, and it isn't just, oh, thanks.